On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, rumors have been going around about Tesla's upcoming more affordable car, and I'm here to help separate the facts from the fiction. Plus, Tesla's charging standard will become the federal standard. The Cybercab project lead shares a few more details about Tesla's upcoming driverless robotaxi, and more. What's happening, friends? Daisy the boxer puppy to my left, mine of the future service dog outside roaming around in the living room somewhere. I'm Ryan McCaffrey. Welcome to Ride the Lightning. It is your weekly Tesla unofficial podcast for December 15th, 2024, episode number 489. And I am flying very, very high tonight because just a few hours ago, I got the word that my new Ultra Red Model 3 Performance with white interior is ready to go. I'd actually been getting a little antsy because it had been nearly a week of radio silence. In fact, a little bit more than a week since my VIN had been assigned. And then, bam, as I'm sitting down eating lunch this afternoon, a text from my delivery specialist came through who said it was ready. In fact, he actually offered that I could have picked it up tonight, and very kindly, he offered to bring it to my house. But not only do I want to look the car over in daylight, I also want it on the road as little as possible until I can get it over to Immaculate Reflections next week when the owner there, Jeff, gets back from a family trip. And I also really wanted my wife and daughter to be part of it, because this is, even if, they're not car people and this isn't like a big moment for them, it's a big moment for me, and I want my family, I want the people I love to share in the joy of this with me. So scheduled it for tomorrow. It's Friday night as I record as usual, so the delivery is happening tomorrow. It's the big day. I can't wait. So that means by the time 99% of you hear this, the Patreon backers get it early, but by the time most of you hear this, I will have the car. I'm actually going to knock on wood here, just barring anything going so horribly wrong that I end up rejecting the delivery. But fingers crossed that I get a perfect build. I'm just so pumped up. I'm so excited. A new car is an extremely rare privilege for me in life. Everybody's different. Everybody's got their different station in life, and I'm not here to compare myself to anybody else, but for me, I'm 44 years old, this will be the third new car that I've ever had. My very first car was a hand-me-down, which was great, had that for a year or two. Then I bought my dream car, the DeLorean, which at the time was an 18-year-old car, so it wasn't new, but it was still an incredible dream come true. But my first actual new car came when I was 25. That was my Infiniti G35 Coupe. Then my second new car, my 2018 Model 3 Performance 6.5 years ago. And now here at the very end of 2024, at age 44, is going to be my third ever new car. So I'm super pumped, and I just can't wait for tomorrow. If you want to follow along with the delivery, I will make some posts on my Instagram, and my username there, if you don't usually make it to the end of the show where I mention that stuff, my username on Instagram is DMC_Ryan. Hey, while we're talking about good news, here's great news not for just me, but for all Tesla investors. Tesla's stock closed the week at its all-time high, hitting $436.23 a share. Now, this is all-time high, factoring in splits, because, of course, the original pre-split, before it split the first time, I vividly recall it hitting $2,000 a share. And then it split 5 ways, and then the second time it split 3 or 4. Now, that one I can't remember, as, of course, Zelina's out there in the hallway right outside this door, just chewing on a squeak toy. So if you're hearing squeaky sounds on the podcast, coming through the microphone. I do apologize, but $436.23 a share is where it closed out the week. Congratulations to everybody who's been waiting to screenshot their Tesla stock hitting $420.69 per share. $420.69. It happened. It happened, my friends. And then, much to our delight, it just kept going up. Awesome, awesome stuff. More good news, this time, not just for me, not just for Tesla investors, but for the entire EV movement, and that is Tesla's NACS charge port will become the federal standard, according to an announcement by the US government. Somewhat ironically, I read the story on Drive Tesla Canada, who wrote, "This decision aims to unify and streamline the nation's EV charging infrastructure, promising greater compatibility, efficiency, and accessibility for EV users." Kristen White, acting federal highway administrator, confirmed the significance of this shift at a recent Alliance for Automotive Innovation conference. She announced that federal agencies would soon issue updated guidance to incorporate NACS into federally funded EV charging projects. Quote, "In the coming weeks, you will be seeing an update from the federal agencies on what we call the J3400 standard. That will be the standard protocol moving forward, and we're really happy to report that out," she said. Then via Politico, according to White, this transition to NACS will occur within the framework of existing regulations, avoiding the need for new rulemaking. Instead, the forthcoming update will provide clarification on using NACS within the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, or NEVI, N-E-V-I, which currently mandates CCS ports in federally funded chargers. This balances the integration of NACS with the continued use of CCS technology, ensuring a gradual and inclusive transition. Thank you to Drive Tesla Canada. Well, this just formalizes the fairly swift movement that we saw this make amongst automakers in the US. I mean, you've all been following along here on the podcast and or on your own. Once those first couple of big dominoes fell, I'm talking about Ford and GM being two of the first automakers, major automakers, or really any automakers to sign on, the momentum from there, once those two big dominoes fell, the momentum became pretty much, and as it proved out, unstoppable. And on that note, look how quickly we got to this point. Inside of a year, we went from nobody else signing on to Tesla's charging standard to everyone signing on and the US government signing on in making it the federal standard. So this is obviously a win for Tesla owners, because any third-party fast chargers that the government puts up moving forward will have the Tesla port, the NACS port, but really it's a bigger win for the entire EV movement. This will only help EV adoption. It is only a good thing, and when those folks out there that haven't picked up an EV yet, haven't made the switch, when they do make the switch to an EV, they're going to do so in part, because they see how vast the charging network is, both Tesla's and others, and they'll see that any car can use any station, and that means they're going to have a better experience when they do actually venture out into the world and go on road trips with their cars, which will only instill confidence and thus will only positively reinforce their decision to make the leap into an EV. Great stuff all around. Speaking of charging, as we get warmed up with some more appetizers here this week, this is the charcuterie plate portion of the podcast. Tesla set a record for most energy delivered in a single day by the Supercharger network. For context, this is in North America. It's not a global number. And I know that we don't have quite as much context as we'd like for this, meaning what I would like to know is how much energy do the North American superchargers dish out on an average day? But this number, even in a vacuum without that context, I think is nevertheless quite impressive. And that number is 12 gigawatt hours in a single day from North American superchargers. Max de Zeger, and Max, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I think Max might listen to the podcast because he does follow me on Twitter, or on X, pardon me. Max is on the Tesla charging team. He posted on X in response to Tesla's efforts to reduce the price of supercharging. How it got going was another X user named Will Lowers asked Max, he said, was Thanksgiving 2024 the peak ever supercharger consumption? There are likely some fun stats that could be pulled. To which Max very kindly responded there, saying, yes, with an exclamation mark, 12 gigawatt hours on Saturday, November 30th on the North American network. Wow. Well, I tweeted back at Max asking for that average daily number to try and put some context into this, and sadly, I did not get a response, at least not as of me recording this. But again, even in a vacuum, that's still just such a bonkers number that this isn't anything but super cool. And particularly as more and more superchargers are going to be solar powered with mega pack backups. In other words, more and more of the energy being deployed by the superchargers will be renewably sourced. So that is awesome, awesome stuff. I would love nothing more than to just keep the joy train rolling along here, but I have to veer off for a minute and talk about some lousier news this week. You may remember I've been talking it up, including a very long segment on last week's podcast. I was so happy about getting SiriusXM in our Teslas as part of the holiday update. That excitement, now in reality, now that I have the holiday update, and as do many others, that excitement has turned. Let's put it this way: the smile has turned upside down into a frown. The excitement has turned into frustration, and clearly I am not the only one. I have been getting a lot of messages via various forums, whether it's Instagram or X or email or phone call. In fact, I'm going to let Brian from Prescott, who called into the Ride the Lightning hotline, explain what's going on with SiriusXM, specifically in Teslas. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Ryan, it's Brian from Prescott, Arizona. Hey, long-time listener to the podcast. I've been listening since long before you and I got our Model 3s. And we are a 3 Tesla household, over 3, a Y, and a Cybertruck now. So excited. But I'm calling just to give my feedback on the SiriusXM with the holiday update and my disappointment with the whole situation with SiriusXM. Like you, I'm a longtime SiriusXM fan. Had a subscription for, as long as I can remember since it's been around. And I went to upgrade my service and switch it from one of my old ICE cars to my Model 3, which is my daily driver. And they wouldn't do it. Evidently, you can't just transfer over the subscription. I had to cancel my subscription and then re-up with SiriusXM for the Tesla. And, I kind of was hoping they were going to treat the SiriusXM app like an app like we do for Spotify and for YouTube Music, and be able to have our favorites and our saves across all vehicles, but they're not doing that. So they're treating each car like they have their own radio, which we know they don't have, or satellite receiver. And so your favorites and your other stuff doesn't save. So in order to keep your favorites, you'd have to use your Bluetooth on your phone and have the app on your phone. It's not going to work across cars. So just disappointed with that. I was hoping SiriusXM would, at least evolve with the future of the way streaming works now. But hopefully they catch up and they do it. And I hope for your sake, they allow you to transfer your lifetime SiriusXM subscription. So that's it. I just wanted to give my feedback, a little disappointment with the SiriusXM app, and hope that others, don't have the same experience I had. All right, that's it, Ryan. Really appreciate the podcast and all you do. We'll talk to you later.
Unfortunately, I have to tell all of you that Brian is right. Not only can you not sign into SiriusXM in your car with, say, a lifetime subscription, you can't sign into SiriusXM in your car with any existing subscription. This, I try to stay positive on this podcast because there's enough negativity in the world, but this to me is such a slimy move by SiriusXM. It's slimy. It's not okay. And though I'm not going to directly lay this at Tesla's feet, it is sort of partially their problem as well, even if it's not their fault, because they are allowing SiriusXM's sliminess to happen on their platform and upset their customers. I don't have to be a software engineer to say this with confidence. There is zero technical reason why I should not be able to sign in with my existing account in the car. None. There's no physical satellite receiver in my Model 3. There's no physical satellite antenna. It's an app. It is software connecting through Tesla's cellular service that we already pay for with premium connectivity. This is a money grab by SiriusXM, and I find it disgusting. I'll be honest, you heard me last week, I was really excited to start listening to SiriusXM regularly in my car again, but guess what? I have no desire to pay again for something I've already paid for. I mean, I think that's pretty reasonable, right? I don't think I'm asking a lot here. So Tesla, if you're listening to this, if anybody from Tesla who can do something about this is listening to this, because let's be honest, Tesla's more likely to hear this than the right person from SiriusXM is, but I guess you never know. If anybody from Tesla or SiriusXM is listening to this, please rethink this. This is just not okay. And to Tesla specifically, I want to say, please lean on your contacts at SiriusXM and put some pressure on. Tell them this is not okay for them for you guys to do this to our customers. That's what I want Tesla to say to SiriusXM. I want to see this. Again, it's a first world wrong, right? This is not like a huge, horrible thing in the grand scheme of things, but this isn't right, and I hope that Tesla will lean on SiriusXM to get it fixed. Let us sign in to our existing account. That's all we're asking for SiriusXM in our Teslas. While we're on the subject of not fun news, I do have one more bit of not fun news to share this week. Tesla has issued its first price increase in quite a while. It is limited, at least for right now, to the Model S. Both trims, the long range and the plaid, have gone up by $5,000 a piece. So the long range starts at $80,000 and the plaid starts at $95,000. Both, however, do come with free lifetime supercharging now, which is a perk that Tesla hasn't pulled out in quite a while. So I suppose one way you could look at this is that the car is actually the same price as it was a week ago, but now you're forced to pay a $5,000 premium. You're paying $5,000 for free lifetime supercharging, which, by the way, the fine print, if you click on it, it will not go to the next owner, even if you sell the car privately. So that free lifetime supercharging is only for the duration of the time that you own the car. Now, funny enough, and if you've been listening for a very, very long time, back to when I got my first Tesla 6.5 years ago, you might know this story, but I'll make it quick for everybody else. Tesla actually gave me this literal choice back in the fall of 2018, and I will tell you that I chose poorly. The quick story is, as I've joked about on the podcast before, nobody has ever paid more for a Model 3 than I did. I paid a total of $80,000 for my Model 3 when you factor in enhanced autopilot and FSD. And that's before incentives, right? That's the price out the door. There were incentives. There was the tax credit at the time and a California rebate at the time. But my car was 80 grand because I checked every single box. I had multi-coat red, performance package, white seats, whole thing. And just a couple of months after I got to back up a quick second. The first run of performance Model 3s had free lifetime supercharging on them, which the other Model 3s did not. Tesla used it as a demand lever to try and get people to spend more to get the performance model, right? I was already convinced to get the performance model, so for me, the free lifetime supercharging was just an awesome perk that I wasn't expecting, and it's been awesome. I've definitely used it. I don't know if I've used it $5,000 worth, but therein lies my regret. And that is, Tesla cut the price of the Performance Model 3 by $5,000 just a couple of months after I got it. It was like 2 or 3 months after I got the car. So this was fall of 2018 because I got the car at the end of July of 2018. And a bunch of performance owners were pretty upset about it, as you can imagine, and they vocalized their dissatisfaction to Elon on Twitter. This was back when Elon was super responsive to Tesla stuff on Twitter on a pretty regular basis. And Tesla, to their credit, and Elon, to his credit, offered the existing Performance Model 3 owners, myself included, which, at that moment in time, there couldn't have been more than a few thousand of us at that point. It must have been a pretty small group of people, which may have been why Tesla was willing to do this at all. But anyway, they said to the existing Model 3 Performance owners, well, okay, we'll give you $5,000 back, but if you take us up on that, we're going to take away your free lifetime supercharging. And I listened to my heart instead of my brain, because my heart was like, oh, it'd just be so cool to never have to pay for supercharging, and I plan to have this car for a long time. I should have taken the money. There's no way I've used $5,000 worth of supercharging in 6.5 years, even with it being free. I should have taken the $5,000 and bought Tesla stock with it, because this week it hit its all-time high. I would have multiplied by my money by, I don't even want to do the math at how much. But anyway, that's my quick little story about that. So I just couldn't help but be reminded of that little story this week when Tesla upped the price of the Model S by $5,000, but also threw on the free lifetime supercharging. So anyway, if you're in the market for a Model S, I hate to be the one to break it to you that the price just went up $5,000, but you do get free lifetime supercharging at least, and I'd encourage you to use it. Okay, getting back to happier things, on the plus side, setting up the phone key on my Apple Watch, because as I mentioned, I did get the holiday update this past week. I fully set up my Apple Watch as a phone key, and it could not have been easier. It was literally one touch of a button, and it works like a charm. I left my phone upstairs, came down to the garage with just my watch, car opened up right away, no problem, super painless. I tested it out. I turned on the climate from the watch and unlocked and locked the car. Works great, love it. This is a cool functionality like I talked about last week. And I decided to make this the subject of this week's Patreon poll as the result of a suggestion from listener Ian C., who had commented on last week's poll where I asked you about your favorite holiday update feature. And Ian wondered aloud if Tesla was going to support Android-based smartwatches, just as they have chosen to do so on the Apple Watch. And I noted to Ian in a comment reply, I said, well, Tesla's got the data on how many Tesla owners use iPhones and how many use Android devices, but we don't have that data, unfortunately. And Ian said, well, why don't you put up a poll and let's get a little bit of an idea? And that was a great suggestion by Ian. So I did just that. This week's Patreon poll question was simply, are you an Apple or Android smartphone user? Is your Tesla app on an iPhone or on an Android? And the results were pretty heavily in one direction. I honestly was not quite expecting it to be this tilted in one way. iPhone 71%, Android 27%. Now, as Pete, the owner and proprietor of abstractocean.com, mentioned in a comment, he was one of the first people to leave a comment. In fact, I got to load. There it is. So Pete said for Abstract Ocean, which of course does business from Tesla owners around the world with the aftermarket accessories they sell, Pete said, based on the mobile traffic we see to our site, in the US, it's 75-25 iOS to Android, but for the international mix, it's much closer to 50-50. And sure enough, the poll nearly reflected exactly what Pete had mentioned there, just as the poll had gone up, 71-27, which tells me, and my back-end data tells me this too, that most of my audience, the plurality of you, I'd just say the majority of you, are in the US. I have certainly a lot of listeners around the world, Canada and England and Australia and throughout Europe. There's certainly plenty of you around the world. But I was a little surprised at how dominant iPhone was in that poll. So that's at least some little indication of what the broader Tesla audience looks like. And that probably answers the question of why Tesla decided to start with Apple Watch support. Hopefully they will add Android, Google Pixel or Pixel Watch, right? Android smartwatch support in some near-term future time. And a reminder, by the way, you don't have to be supporting me on Patreon to vote in each week's poll. You can just stop by and vote every week. The poll typically goes up on Tuesday evenings. Just swing on by. The website is patreon.com/Tesla podcast, and you'll see the poll question go up each week that anybody is able to just respond to and vote in. So thank you to everybody that took the time. Actually, wow, there were a lot of votes in this week's poll. Thank you so much to everybody that stopped by and cast your ballot. Speaking of Patreon, this week's lightning round bonus mini episode that I do every single week for the kind folks who are supporting me at the $10 tier or higher on Patreon. I hope you all enjoyed this week's lightning round mini episode, which was my Tesla holiday wish list. Basically, if Tesla was Santa, here's what I would wish for. Here's what would be on my wish list for Tesla this holiday season. So check that out. There are 124 now lightning rounds up there. And if you join the Patreon at that $10 tier or higher, you get access to all of them, plus each new one that I do every single week. The Patreon tiers start at just $5 a month, and no matter what tier you're at, you'll get early access to each week's episode, and you'll get an ad-free episode. And if you do jump up to that $10 per month tier or higher, you will get those things plus those lightning round mini episodes as well. There's also a 20% off your first month holiday promo going on right now. The promo code for that is 2645F, as in future, 2645F for your 20% discount off your first month on the Patreon. If you decide to do an annual pledge, you're kind enough to back me once for an entire year of support, you get a 10% discount for doing that. All of that can be found on my Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/Tesla podcast. Oh, and a reminder, if you're a first-time Tesla buyer, you can get $1,000 or $2,000 off of your Tesla purchase, $1,000 off of the 3 or the Y, $2,000 off of an S, X, or Cybertruck by using someone's referral link. If you'd like to use mine, you simply type in any web browser ts.la/Ryan73014. That link will be in the episode description as well. Again, that's $1,000 off a 3 or a Y, $2,000 off of a Cybertruck S or X. And regardless of whether or not you use my referral link, if you are considering buying a Tesla and you just want to ask some questions about which Tesla, or specifically like which variant of a particular model might be best for you and your family, do feel free to hit me up anytime on email, on X, or on Instagram. I am always happy to help with this stuff. I love talking about it. All right, while I'm talking about Friends of the podcast, let me quickly mention two biggies this week. Climate Exchange, the Climate Exchange raffle, it is getting closer. If you want to make 2025 your merriest year yet, well, sure, why not? That sounds great. What if I told you that you could win any Tesla configured however you want, and yes, that includes the Cybertruck, for just $250, and at the same time, you'd be giving to a great cause? Well, you're in luck because the Climate Exchange EV raffle is back for its 9th year, and proceeds benefit a small nonprofit that's doing really important work for our planet to help states pass climate policies. Even better, if you win, Climate Exchange pays all of the fees and taxes on the car, meaning you get your dream Tesla, or I guess any other EV, but you're going to pick a Tesla if you're listening to this podcast, right? With zero out-of-pocket cost. So if you're still tackling your holiday shopping list, Climate Exchange makes it easy to purchase tickets as a gift on their checkout page. Plus, tickets are instantly delivered by email and text message, meaning you don't have to stress about shipping delays ahead of your holiday gatherings. As a holiday treat, Climate Exchange is doubling the excitement of your gift with an extra prize. All tickets purchased before the end of 2024 will be entered into the bonus early bird drawing for $10,000 cash. And that's going to be happening on January 3rd. If you win that, you're still eligible for the grand prize drawing on February 28th. And even better, Climate Exchange is giving away 2 additional cash prizes of $12,500 for their second place winner and $7,500 for their third place winner during that February drawing. So go to carbonraffle.org/RTL to get your tickets and make this the happiest time of the year, or click the link in the episode description. That's carbonraffle.org/RTL. Don't forget about Accelerate Auto and their XCare extended warranty plan for your Tesla as well. It's just better than the Tesla extended warranty plan. Let's just call a spade here, because there's nothing wrong with the Tesla option. It's only a single choice. You can do a 2-year, 25,000 mile extended warranty through Tesla, but you have to buy it before your factory warranty is up. With XCare, sure, you could do 2 years and 25,000 miles if you want, and they match all the same stuff, $100 deductible, 24/7 roadside assistance, but XCare also offers rental reimbursement and trip interruption coverage, which Tesla doesn't. And XCare goes wherever you want it to go, up to 10 years, up to 125,000 more miles, or anywhere in between. So it's super customizable for whatever works for you. Go to accelerateauto.com/xcare, and don't forget to use the discount code LIGHTNING for $100 off your purchase. That's accelerateauto.com/XCARE, discount code LIGHTNING. And yes, that link is also in the episode description. Okay, back to Tesla news, and you can tell it's been a busy week when we're 30 minutes into the podcast and only just now getting to the headline story. So, there was a rumor going around this week that Tesla effectively announced, or shall we say confirmed, the Model Q at a Deutsche Bank event. So, it turns out this was a bit of a game of internet telephone, where the information morphed and changed incorrectly, in this case, per the rules of the game, or not the rules, but how the game of telephone tends to go. But that information morphed, changed, and ended up being wrong by the time it was reported to the public. So I'm not going to read you the wrong stuff, because I want to just give you the correct information. Here's the original core of the story, which again, I'm going to leave out some details that have now been proven to be incorrect. This comes via Teslarati, who wrote, according to a report from globalchinaev.com, Tesla announced during an investor meeting with Deutsche Bank that it plans to launch the Model Q for less than $30,000, aiming to compete with vehicles like the BYD Dolphin and the Volkswagen ID.3. Now, to Teslarati's credit, they posted an update to the story that brought us back down to earth a bit, and that update consists of this. It comes via the Wall Street Journal. So Teslarati writes, the Wall Street Journal's Becky Peterson reports having a copy of Deutsche Bank's report. Here's what she said, and this is the real story. So she says, I got a copy of the Deutsche Bank report. Here's what it does say. Number one, Travis Axelrod, who's the head of investor relations at Tesla, met with Deutsche Bank for its autonomous driving day on December 5th in New York City. Number two, Deutsche Bank describes, quote, the new Tesla model, end quote, which it calls Model Q. Deutsche Bank, not Tesla. Number three, Deutsche Bank says it will launch in the first half of 2025 and cost less than $30,000 with subsidies or $37,499 if Trump cancels the IRA tax credit. Number four, again, this is all from the Wall Street Journal's Becky Peterson. Deutsche Bank says it will be built on Tesla's existing lines. The report doesn't say anything about Redwood, which is the internal code name for a mass market vehicle built on a new platform, which Musk paused earlier this year. It also doesn't say anything about the size or cost or how it might differ from a Model 3. A couple more points of context. Tesla told investors on its Q3 earnings call that it plans to deliver a more affordable model in the first half of 2025. They said that to do that, it will lower the price of its current lineup and then eventually sell robotaxis. When asked about a non-robotaxi $25,000 car, Musk said, quote, we're not making a non-robo. So that's the end of the Teslarati report and the Wall Street Journal correction, if you will. I think it's fair to call it a correction. So that's what really happened, because there were the other reports just had all these details about its size and its price and its range, and it's like, nope, none of that. That was all just speculation. For my part, I will say that I would 100% believe Tesla would name their mass market, ultra high volume, most affordable car yet the Model Q. Why do I believe that? Which again, it's not real. That's Deutsche Bank just calling it that. That's not Tesla. But I'm saying I would believe Tesla would actually do that because it would kind of be the ultimate troll to short sellers who, as we know, have been a thorn in Tesla's side for years. And the reason, if you're thinking, well, what do you mean Model Q? What does that have to do with short sellers? The short sellers all march under the banner called Tesla Q. The Q is indicative, per my understanding, of bankruptcy. So meaning Tesla Q would mean Tesla being bankrupt in sort of stock parlance. So making Tesla's highest volume car, again, I'm saying if Tesla were to name it the Model Q, making their highest volume car a ubiquitous "See, I told you so" rolling billboard for Tesla crushing those short sellers would be completely on brand for them. So that's why I would believe that they would call it the Model Q. And maybe they will. They probably won't, but I'm just saying I would believe it if they did. In reality, we obviously don't know what it'll be called. Elon has previously indicated that Tesla might be done with the whole model blank, letter, model, and letter naming convention, but you never know. You never know. But anyway, what I find strange about this is that $37,500, regardless of whether or not there is an EV tax credit when this car comes out, that's only $5,000 less than the base Model 3, which, as we all know, the base Model 3 is a very, very impressive 363-mile range car. And so it leaves me to wonder, at $37,500, and again, I'm going to go back to calling this the Model 2.5. That's the Ryan McCaffrey name for this, and I fully recognize that it's just shorthand. It's definitely in no way going to actually be called that, but I've been using that term here on the podcast for a while, so you all know what I'm talking about. The Model 2.5 is effectively going to take the place, if it were priced at $37,500 before any potential incentives, it would basically be taking the place of the now discontinued LFP pack base Model 3 that's no longer available, that had 272 miles of range. So is it just going to be pretty much that in a smaller body that's cheaper for Tesla to make with fewer parts in it, and therefore higher margin per vehicle multiplied by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of units per year? Because that certainly would work economically for Tesla, but I suppose maybe I'm just wishfully hoping / expecting something a bit more drastic in terms of moving down market and less of an incremental half step, which is what a $37,500 car would be. And by the way, I don't say that abrasively or with any offense intended towards Tesla, because I can't possibly imagine how difficult it is for the design, engineering, and manufacturing teams at Tesla to move even a little bit down market. It's got to be the lower you go in price, the harder it must get to get every dollar cheaper. But I also don't see this thing moving 3 to 5 million units per year, even across two vehicles, which again, we've been told to expect that it's going to be multiple cars by the plural of the word vehicles used in the last earnings call and shareholder letter, when the Model Y does, and I'm using air quotes here, only 1.2 million per year. So if this thing's not going to be drastically cheaper, I don't see how it's going to do 3 to 4 times the volume of the Model Y today. So I know I have to wait for the full reveal of the Model 2.5 cars and the full story on this when that reveal officially happens from Tesla, but this info, as correctly reported by the Wall Street Journal via Deutsche Bank, does come straight from Tesla, from their head of investor relations, even if it's not in a formal, for the general public kind of way. So if my hunch is correct, and the Model 2.5 is both a smaller sedan and a smaller SUV, then the smaller SUV would really start at about 40 grand if we're, just using 37.5 as the price for the sedan. So even 40 grand for the smaller SUV is still less than the average new car price today, by the way. So it's still relatively cheap, just not moving necessarily quite as far down market as Tesla has discussed doing in the past when they've talked about a $25,000 vehicle. So place your bets as to when the unveiling of this will be. I will place my bet, I will cover this on my annual New Year's Tesla predictions episode coming up in just 2 weeks. We're 2 weeks away from that annual fun little tradition that I've got going here on Ride the Lightning. Next up this week, there's plenty more to talk about. As many of you know, the Cybercab prototypes have been out on tour. They've been on display, available to check out at various Tesla stores around the country and even around the world. Now, at one of those stops, the project lead, Eric E., and yes, I actually could not find his last name. Even his LinkedIn page says Eric E. on it, so I guess he just wants to maintain some privacy, and that's totally fine. But Eric gave an impromptu talk about the vehicle at one of the Tesla showrooms, one of the Tesla stores. Thankfully, somebody filmed it, and it was posted on X by Ride the Lightning listener Tess Ali. Take a listen, courtesy of Tess Ali, to Eric's, shall we say, 4-minute TED Talk on the Cybercab.
All right, one of the questions we get constantly with this product is, why is it 2 seats? Well, there's a couple reasons why it's 2 seats. One is 82% of miles driven today are with 2 or fewer passengers. This product is meant to be of extreme efficiency, and we work really hard to deliver that. And the efficiency isn't just on an energy consumption basis, it's on the concept of cleaning, it's also on the concept of reliability and service as well. So 2 seats unlocks a lot of opportunity aerodynamically. It also means we cut the part count of Cybercab down by a substantial margin. We're going to be delivering a car that has roughly half the parts of Model 3 today. It also means when you need to clean the car as a rideshare asset, you really don't have to worry about navigating multiple doors, multiple seats. You really just have what looks like a bench seat, easy to clean automatically. And you have very few pockets of space where you're going to have, certain things that are obviously not going to be desirable to maintain on a daily basis. And you can kind of see the aerodynamic advantage by the track difference between the front and rear of the car. So you can see how the track is narrowed at the back. It really gives us a great aerodynamic shape. It helps us obviously get to the efficiency targets that we want. And some of the team tonight will be able to talk more about the efficiency of the product with you. In addition to that, the car is obviously no steering wheel, no pedals, which is really cool. This car runs on V13, which obviously is now going wide to the larger public. At least it will be in the coming weeks, hopefully. Some of you hopefully have access to that now. So this car is really running what we're putting out to the public today, which is great.
Excuse me, hardware for? How are these doors more efficient?
These doors help you from multiple reasons. One is it allows for better ingress-egress for the fact that we move the B-pillar back. This seat actually is in the full rearward position rather than having the B-pillar kind of more beside the seat, so you get in and out of the car in any position much easier. And also, Alex can talk about how we've improved the doors from this product, or from this version, to future versions that also help with efficiency of the design, as well as the efficiency getting in and out. So yeah, that's a little bit of the 2-seater concept. Yeah, that's a little bit on the 2-seater concept. On the product with respect to the tires themselves are built around efficiency, ride, comfort. We want to have great NVH, great experience in the car. The larger diameter also helps, a bit with the rolling resistance that we're trying to get from an efficiency perspective. And obviously the futuristic look is something that we're really going for with this product. We want it to look very different as it goes down the road. On the trunk side of things, we have a massive trunk. The trunk is able to fit everything from multiple golf bags to 2 full-size carry-ons, 2 full-size check bags all at once. You can also fit some amount of bicycles in there as well, depending on the size. So we're really putting a lot of emphasis on having a large trunk space that's easy to clean.
Wheelchair?
Foldable wheelchairs will fit as well.
Thank you.
On the interior side, we have the largest screen that we'll ever put, or that we've put up to this point in our cars. This is going to be great for all the multimedia experience that you have, whether it's display from your phone to the screen, or games, media, whatever you're thinking that you want to do while you're obviously sitting in the car having to drive you. The best part of this is you get the time back, so you'll be able to utilize the screen, your phone, whatever you want while the car takes you to your destination.
What's the size of the screen and the resolution?
It's a 21-inch screen. Resolution is same as Model 3 today, Model 3 Model 1.
That was a very informative 4 minutes there by Eric. I'm grateful for that. So we learned half the parts of today's Model 3, and we know that today's Model 3 has fewer parts than the old Model 3. Also, it was neat to hear more about the trunk specifically in the Cybercab and the volume of it, all this real-world stuff it can hold, because I feel like that hadn't really been detailed much until that clip right there. And by the way, it was nice to get confirmation on the screen size. 21 inches there, which that's about, well, it's not about, it's 3 inches bigger. It's, 18.2 is the Cybertruck screen. So it is just about 3 inches bigger than the Cybertruck screen, which is the largest one in any Tesla. And not only is it about 3 inches bigger than the Cybertruck screen, but Cybertruck's the biggest and widest vehicle Tesla makes. The Cybercab is the smallest and narrowest vehicle that Tesla intends to currently make. So I can tell you, and I did mention this after I came back from the Cybercab event, riding in that prototype at the unveiling, I actually would have guessed that it was bigger than a 21-inch screen, because in that narrow cabin, it looked larger than that. It was just an enormous display in this relatively small car. So cool that we now know for sure it's 21 inches. Thank you again to Tess Ali for posting that video to X. I'm really glad we got to hear that. Okay, that will wrap it up for another busy week of Tesla news. Stick with me though, your phone calls are coming up next in the Ride the Lightning hotline.
Hi, this is Franz von Holzhausen, and you're listening to Ride the Lightning with Ryan McCaffrey, the Tesla unofficial podcast.
Welcome to the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's your chance to call in and possibly be featured here on the podcast. So, if you've got a Tesla question, comment, or discussion topic, I welcome and invite you to call in with it. There are 2 easy ways to do that. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record your question, please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less so that I can get to as many callers each week as possible, and then email that file to me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can take that same 90-second or less question and call in and leave a message on the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's a toll-free number you can dial anytime. The number is 1-888-989-8752. Again, that's 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. First up this week is Eric from Vermont responding to Jim from Minnesota about the rear liftgate on the Model Y was in question, but really all the Teslas that have rear liftgates, a GPS tagged, geotagged setting on that. So Eric, go ahead.
Hey, this is Eric from Vermont commenting on Jim from Minnesota's comment about the liftgate setting. The one issue I see is that for people who are carrying stuff on the top of their car, whether it be boats, lumber, or something else, they would still need to have that lower liftgate setting so that the liftgate doesn't run into that stuff there. So I think if Tesla was to do this, it would have to be probably software driven either on the screen or through the Tesla app. So the other thought I had was, if Tesla really had a lot of people with this problem, they could add the sensors that basically they have inside the Falcon Wing doors. But maybe that's just too costly for most people. This is sort of an outside problem. Anyway, that's my thought. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, you're right about the sensor solution, a la the Model X Falcon Wing door. Tesla probably isn't going to add parts. They usually only delete them, but that certainly would solve the problem. You're absolutely right. And your point about having a roof box or Christmas tree or something on the roof is also well taken. I'm convinced there has got to be a good solution here, though. I thank you very much for your call, and we'll go to the next caller now. It's Gil from San Diego.
Hi, Ryan. Gil from San Diego. I can't remember if I have heard this, but has anybody noticed that FSD does not seem to recognize grade-level trains or trolleys? In San Diego, we have both, where they're passing right in front of you on train tracks. And on the visualization, it looks like a bunch of buses kind of just tailgating each other. And the troubling part is It never sees the gate, or you don't see it on the visualization, and the unique train lights look like a regular stoplight that's kind of flashing. So it's never quite sure what to do, and I'm usually intervening there. That just seems like a fairly significant thing that we should have been seeing it recognized by now. I'm just curious if anybody else has seen that. Thanks.
Hey, Gil. Yeah, I have noticed that visualization thing. In fact, it just happened to me the other day. My daughter was in the car with me, and she called it out and was laughing at the giant, super stretched out buses in lieu of a properly rendered train. I haven't personally experienced train signals with FSD or live crossings, or I guess I should say I have, but it's always been behind other cars, so my car only reacts to them. I mean, I'd have to imagine that properly dealing with trains has to be pretty high on the Tesla AI team's priority list, or at least I hope so. Thank you, as always, for your call, Gil. I've got time for one more call this week. It is from Al in Maryland.
Hi, Ryan. My name is Al Woltz, and I live out on the East Coast in Abingdon, Maryland. I'm a brand new Tesla owner. I've had my car less than 6 months, and I really love it, and I love your podcast as well. I have a question for you or for the other listeners. My favorite hobby is called geocaching, where I'm given a latitude and longitude to find we'll call it a treasure. I haven't figured out how I can input a GPS coordinate into the navigation system of my Tesla Y. If you could figure out or tell me how that's done, or if it's done, I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks, Ryan. And to all the listeners out there, really appreciate the work that's gone into developing a Tesla. Thank you.
Hi, Al. Thank you very much for the kind words. I want to say welcome to the podcast and welcome to the Tesla community. I am thrilled to hear that you're enjoying your time here so far, and I bring good news for you, sir. I believe I have a fairly straightforward answer to your question. I Googled this, and it looks like it is very doable. So here's what Google's AI summary had to say. To input GPS coordinates into a Tesla navigation system, simply tap the search bar on the map, then enter the coordinates directly in the format quote, back up, quote, latitude, comma, longitude, end quote. For instance, quote, 37.7749, comma, negative 122.4194, quote. The system will automatically pinpoint the location on the map, allowing you to navigate to it. So that is courtesy of Google's AI summary. And Al, I hope that helps you get your Tesla involved in your geocaching time. Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you to everybody that kindly took the time to call in. I promise I'll get to more of your phone calls on next week's podcast. If you'd like to call in, I gave you the 2 easy call-in methods at the top of this segment, so refer back to that. And let me now move straight to the Spirit of Adventure section of the podcast. This is where I tell you what I'm doing with my car, what I'm up to on my Tesla journey. And I guess I'm going to have to rename this section of the podcast when I come up with a new name or a name for my new Model 3 Performance. And I've got one that I'm liking. I guess I'll run it by you guys. So I'm leaning towards the Rocket of Adventure. Just to kind of stick with the same theme, the same, I love the name The Spirit of Adventure. It's just such a great fit, and I love the Pixar movie Up. And the Rocket of Adventure is just kind of, I'm thinking it's like similar thing, but the rocket portion is leaning into the fact that this new Model 3 Performance is even quicker and faster and higher performing than my old one is. So that's what I'm settling on right now, but I certainly reserve the right to change it, or if you all tell me it's ridiculous, or if I think of a better one. But for now, I'm kind of thinking about the Rocket of Adventure. And with that delivery coming up tomorrow, I'm just hoping that the weather holds out. In fact, I had looked, I'm going to look again. When I looked earlier, and let's see what it's showing now. So Tomorrow, okay, so the forecast is currently unchanged. It is currently saying that there's a 55% chance of rain the previous hour, and then in the hour of my delivery, my scheduled delivery, it's not saying it's going to be raining, but it says it's going to be windy. So I guess I would love it to not be raining, so that hopefully the car has been inside and it's doesn't have any water on it, so I can really get a good look at the paint. But we'll just see what happens. We'll see what Mother Nature has in store for me tomorrow, but super excited. As for your entertainment recommendation this week, I simply cannot think about or do anything else with my free time except play Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I'm sorry, I know I mentioned that as my entertainment recommendation last week, but I'm mentioning it again. I'm the host. I get to make the rules. It is just that good of a video game. I love it so much. It is awesome. I'm having an absolute ball with it. So again, if you have an Xbox Series X or S or a capable gaming PC, I highly recommend Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. If you have a PlayStation 5, it's going to be out for PS5 in the spring. We don't have an exact date yet. Pro tip of the week time. Here's Wade in Austin. Go ahead, Wade.
Thanks, Brian. It's Wade in Austin. I'm hoping this will be a pro tip, maybe not, but I was frustrated with my Tesla not going the speed that it should go. I kept on having to encourage it by pushing the gas pedal. I have a 2019 Model X with full self-driving. I was going through the menu and I just tried to say, hey, I'm going to set this auto set speed and see what it does. And that corrected. The car drives as I would expect it to now. Goes a few miles over the speed limit, which is what I wanted anyway. I don't know if everyone knows about this. Maybe they do, but that was a frustration for me, and it was fixed by going into autopilot and changing that setting. Back to you.
Thanks, Wade. That is definitely worth mentioning to folks out there who might also be frustrated by that default FSD setting. Fortunately, there's good news here. I think FSD version 13, from what I've been seeing from the folks that got it early, has new speed profiles that will address this more directly as well, as most of us are still waiting on version 13 in our cars. I appreciate your call, Wade. Thank you so much. If anybody else out there has a good Tesla pro tip of the week, I'd love to hear it so that I can share it with all of you. So educate me, educate everybody else if you've got a good Tesla pro tip of the week. The way to submit that is the same way that you send in the regular Ride the Lightning hotline calls, which I gave you the instructions for a little earlier in the podcast. Before I go, this is the part of the podcast where I mention some friends of Ride the Lightning that can hopefully be useful to you at some point. I'll start with abstractocean.com. They've got a million great aftermarket accessories. In fact, I'm going to have to jump on there after I get my car tomorrow and see what they've got, see what looks good to me, what I might want to grab for my new Model 3 Performance. They've got everything from rear footwell lighting kits, which I think are great for you Model Y owners, where the seats are up on risers. So that'll kind of class up the second row of your car a little bit, in my humble opinion. They also have the drop-in cup holder stabilizers, the 4th generation tempered glass screen protectors, all sorts of interior lighting, exterior lighting, customization options and upgrade options, and way more. So check them out, abstractocean.com. There is a coupon code here as well for 15% off of your first order. That coupon code that you use at checkout is all one word, and that word is RTL Podcast. So that'll get you 15% off of your first order. Thank you to Abstract Ocean for continuing to offer that. Next, the Snap Plate and the newer, stronger Snap Plate Plus is available for Model 3, Model Y, Model X, and Model S. Oh, and Cybertruck as well. This is the front license plate bracket that snaps on and off in seconds, but when it's on there super securely. It's paint safe, it's grill safe, it's radiator safe, it's autopilot safe. It's not going to get in the way of anything, is what I'm trying to say there. The clean, minimal design blends perfectly with the Tesla front end when it's installed and leaves no unsightly hardware behind when it's removed. Make those fix-it tickets go away for those of you who, like me, hate using a front license plate, but if you got to do one, make sure it's the snap plate or the snap plate plus and not the one that Tesla gives you with your car. So to get it, go to everyamp.com/RTL. And the good news there is once you arrive at that website, there's a discount code waiting for you too. So choose whichever snap plate you like, throw it in your online shopping cart, and when you get to checkout, use the coupon code RTL. Immaculate Reflections. I will have a lot more to say than I typically do. I mean, I always have nice things to say because I've had nothing but incredible, awesome experiences at Immaculate Reflections. My car, the 2018, looks, quite frankly, immaculate, if I may humbly say so myself, and it's because of Immaculate Reflections. And the new car, the Rocket of Adventure, it's feeling pretty good, right? We're trying that out. The Rocket of Adventure will be going there early next week, and I can't wait to see what Jeff does with it. Jeff is the owner there. He's the master detailer. I can't wait to see what Jeff does with the paint correction on that sick ultra red paint, the paint protection film on the entire car, the ceramic coating of everything. I am so excited to bring my new car to Immaculate Reflections. If you'd like to get in there with your Tesla or another car you care about, if you're in the greater San Francisco Bay Area or you're going to be here, you got to reach out ahead of time at the website, which is irdetailing.com. There's a contact method through there. And when you reach out through that website, make sure to mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener, and any service that you book in, you'll be courteously extended the Ride the Lightning listener discount, which I am very, very grateful that Jeff at Immaculate Reflections has continued to offer for many years now to my audience. If you want to look him up independently, you can look at his Yelp page, which is yelp.com/Immaculate Reflections. There's also his Instagram page that has a lot of examples of his work as well. His Instagram handle is immaculate_reflections. The Patreon. I mentioned it a little earlier in the podcast, but I'm gonna, if you wouldn't mind here, gonna mention it real quick one more time. The website is patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. That's Patreon. And that is the way that you can voluntarily choose to support the podcast. And my hope is that at some point, maybe it's today, maybe it's next week, maybe it's before the end of the year, maybe it's going to be January 1st. But hopefully at some point, you'll feel like I have earned your support, because I know it's not just easily or quickly given. I have to earn it. And my hope is that I do that by showing up for you every single week, as I've done for the last 489 straight weeks. And hopefully you get a lot out of this podcast. You're informed about all things Tesla, and maybe even, if I'm lucky, you're a little entertained in the process as well. So again, the support tiers for this podcast start at just $5 a month. That's like less than a Starbucks per month. And that $5 a month will get you early access to each week's episode and an ad-free version of the episode as well. If you step up to that most popular tier, that's the $10 per month tier, you'll get ad-free, you'll get early access, and you'll get access to every single one, past, present, and future for as long as you're pledging, of those weekly lightning round mini episodes that I do on Patreon as well. So again, the website is patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. You can follow me on X or Instagram, or both, whatever you prefer. I have the same username on both, and that username is DMC_Ryan. You can subscribe to /follow this podcast on your favorite podcast service, whether that's Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, or YouTube Podcasts. And the way to find me is just search Ride the Lightning Tesla. You should find me pretty quickly that way. And then click the follow button, and it's that simple. It doesn't cost a thing. It just means that when you follow the podcast on your favorite podcast service, every time there's a new episode, which is the same day and time every week, Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, you'll get a push notification on your device that tells you a new episode is available. So take advantage of that. It doesn't cost anything. And finally, I want to say hello and thank you to the top tier Patreon backers. These are the very kind and generous folks that are really generous with their support. They are backing at very generous levels. I'll start with the maximum plaid tier. We had a great conversation on the monthly Patreon Zoom Hangout last week. There's a new maximum plaid backer. A hello and thank you goes out to Kenneth Corbett. Kenneth, thank you so much for your very generous pledge. And I want to say hello and thank you to the rest of the Maximum Plaid backers as well. Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Brett Libano, Patrick Wisneski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Will Stedman, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Richard Corley, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Dustin Hart, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Adam Christie, Damon Klein, Jeff Brown, Jerry Slinger, Clayton Goodfellow, and Michael Mizrahi. Next up, the Roadster in Space tier backers. These folks, in addition to all the other perks from the invite to the monthly Patreon Zoom Hangout all the way down the line, they also get the opportunity to get a one-on-one hangout with me each month, which a number of them take me up on, and it's always fun. It's always fun to chat with folks. So big thanks goes out to Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42. By the way, Victoria gets an extra special shout out this week. She knows why. She did a very nice thing for me, which was incredibly kind and generous, and it does not go unrecognized or underappreciated. Tesla Hitchhiker 42, who I'm chatting with this weekend, looking forward to that. Carol Weston, Robert from near Philly, American Home Contractors, GetAmber.com, Doug Carey, Rav, and Michael Gallo. And finally, last but certainly not least, the Plaid level supporters. This tier is officially no more on the Patreon, but these kind and generous folks continue to pledge at that level, and so they continue to get all the perks and bonuses that they deserve to get at the Plaid tier. Big thanks to George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, Not Elon Musk, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. And you know, reading Chase Cabanillas' name has reminded me of something. I am planning to be down in the Phoenix area visiting my parents at the very end of the year, after Christmas, before New Year's, just a few days. And I haven't thought this through. I'm just winging this right now. I wonder if anyone, and the reason that Chase reminded me of this is because some years ago, a number of years ago at this point, pre-pandemic, which is now a long time ago, I did the same thing where I was visiting my parents at the end of the year, and I did a little Ride the Lightning meetup in Arizona, in the greater Phoenix area, and I wonder if anybody would be interested in that again. I think of the days that I'm going to be down there, the 30th would probably be the best day for me. The lunchtime, maybe we do the same thing we did years ago and meet at an In-N-Out burger, because I always talk about how much I love In-N-Out, and I do. It's delicious, and it's affordable. It's great. It's the best, freshest, affordable fast food you can get, in my humble opinion. I wish they were paying me to say that, but they're not. So if anybody in the Phoenix area would be interested in a totally informal, just chill listener meetup, just hang out, everybody gets burgers for themselves at In-N-Out or whatever you want to get on the menu, grilled cheese maybe if I have any vegetarian friends out there, or vegan friends. So if that is of interest to anybody, please email me, teslapodcast@gmail.com. And if there's enough interest, I'll lock it down. I'll pick a location and a specific time, and we'll do it. But I think December 30th would be the best time, I think, based on my schedule as I know it as of now, to do that. All right, that'll do it for Ride the Lightning episode 489. Hope you enjoyed it. I had a blast on this episode. There was fun stuff to talk about. If you couldn't tell, if it wasn't super obvious, I am shot out of a cannon on this week's episode because I came in guns blazing this week because, like I said, I am riding that high right now of knowing that I'm getting my new Model 3 Performance tomorrow. So next week, I'll have a little something to say about it. Spoiler, it won't be necessarily a ton because what's going to happen is, assuming everything goes well with the delivery and the car is great and I accept the car and I take the car home, it is going to sit in the garage all weekend until early in the week, when I can bring it over to Immaculate Reflections for Jeff to get started on the whole kit and caboodle, the whole 9 yards, the paint correction, the full body PPF, and the ceramic coating. So I'm going to minimize its road time, minimize any chance that any little rock chip or worse hits that ultra red paint before I can get PPF on it. So I'll have a couple of drives under my belt for next week's podcast, but probably not too many miles while it's getting its beautification done and its protection done over at Immaculate Reflections. Anyway, that will do it for Ride the Lightning episode 489. I'm Ryan McCaffrey. Of course, I thank you all so much for your time, your attention, and your enthusiasm, because you wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't enthusiastic about Tesla, about these cars, about what this company is trying to do for this planet and for the automotive industry. You love it, I love it, and there will be plenty more fun stuff to talk about next week, no doubt. Until then, happy electric motoring, and I'll see you next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.